dialogue and diplomacy must remain the way forward. And the Prime Minister is very clear. India is engaged very extensively. This is a very important region for India. Engaged with Israel, engaged with Palestine, engaged with Saudi Arabia, with the United Arab Emirates, with Oman, with Egypt, with Jordan, multi-aligned here. Let me quickly throw this open and bring in our guest. Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty joins me on this special broadcast. Former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, former Deputy Chief of our mission in Israel. Also joining me on this broadcast is Isaacson, Chief Policy and Political Affairs Officer at the American Jewish Committee. Welcome. Ambassador Chakravarty, according to you, short visit, what was the most important takeaway from the Prime Minister's visit in your view, sir?
I think it was the bilateral dimension mainly, because that has been growing over the years. And secondly, I would say the aspect of terrorism and counter-terrorism. I think it was unequivocal in his speech that we will not tolerate terrorism in any form. And third, I would say that that Prime Minister reiterated his sort of India's long-standing position that we need a solution to the Palestinian issue, preferably a two-state solution. And I think the Board of Peace and the rebuilding of Gaza will probably provide another pathway to that solution.
Okay, is that solution even possible? Isaacson, how would you view this? Your key takeaway from the Prime Minister's visit? Many say this is a shot in the arm for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Some were saying he stands isolated after Israel's operations in Gaza. Not so isolated when the leader of 1.4 billion people visits him and hugs him.
Well, yeah, I have to say the alliance with India is of enormous importance on so many levels, but of course, yes, including the political level for the Prime Minister. But for the people of Israel, the relationship with India is of such enormous significance, it cannot be overstated. This special strategic partnership that was announced over the last 2 days, the warmth of the relationship, the 16 agreements that were signed today before the Prime Minister left Israel, the many sectors in which there will be increased cooperation, and just the enthusiasm that was demonstrated by the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of Israel in affirming the specialness of this relationship, so encouraging, especially in a country, Israel, that over the last 2.5 years has felt increasingly alone in the world, in so many parts of the world. But the friendship of India, the friendship of Prime Minister Modi, and the support that he is giving is an enormous shot in the arm, not just for the Prime Minister, but for the people of Israel.
You know, a term that has increasingly been used in Israel, and I want you to weigh in on that, Ambassador Chakravarty, alliance. Are we talking of a partnership? Are we talking of an alliance? Can these words be interchanged, or are both of us reading the situation a little differently, Ambassador Chakravarty?
Well, as you know, Gaurav, India has never ever agreed to any alliance, particularly a security alliance. But we are always open to partnerships. That is the word we use in India in our jargon, diplomatic jargon. And of course, given our position on strategic autonomy, we seek partnerships with different countries. And it is not limited in any sense by any geopolitical events. Hence, you will find that India has cultivated relations with all countries. You know, even in the Gulf, for example, India has very close relations with different Arab countries. We have good relations with every other country in that region. And India continues to maintain the position that you cannot hyphenate any relationship with another country. We believe that independent relations with each country is our foreign policy objective and in our national interest.
In our national interest. Isaacson, we heard Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu use the word alliance. Just a short while back, the Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell, she used the word alliance, if I remember correctly, and so did you. Is alliance the same as partnership, or is Israel reading it a little differently?
I mean, I understand there's a distinction here, and I know that India has not used the term alliance in any of these relationships. But the closeness of this partnership um, is almost synonymous with an alliance. There is clearly a common strategic direction that the two countries are going, a common perception of threats that the two countries face, a common perception of the opportunities that are presented to the two countries and that they can develop together. By the way, there's also a very important aspect, and the ambassador just mentioned this as well. The relationship that India has with countries in the Gulf, with countries in the Arab world, with countries across the world, the developing world especially. Israel also has many of these relationships, but not as many
Yes.
as India. And that using that partnership between India and Israel to benefit a wide range of countries and societies is so apparent. The fact that with IMEC and with I2U2, India and
Yes.
Israel and Gulf states and Europe can be brought closer together, all comes from this special bond that has been developed between India and Israel, and we really welcome that.
Oh, absolutely. And, I2U2 and IMEC, we'll just talk about it in a moment. Ambassador Chakravarty, Israel historically and traditionally has always stood with India in our times of need, even when India wasn't in a position, for whatever reasons, to acknowledge it publicly in the 1960s and 70s, 62 war, 65 war, 71 war. But right now in 2026, I mean, look, we've reported Kargil 1999 and Israel's assistance during Kargil and subsequently. But in 2026, has Prime Minister Narendra Modi signaled that India is taking this relationship to unprecedented heights? Now there is absolutely no hesitation whatsoever.
Oh, absolutely. I think India has made it very clear that the relationship with Israel stand on its own. And as for Israel's attitude and friendship with India, it has a long history. I mean, I
Yes.
remember reading in the, some compilations when I was there in Israel about David Ben Gurion's advice to most of his people and ministers that let's remember let's play the long game. India will one day be our friend, and I think most Israeli governments have generally followed that, and that is why they stepped in to help India in some of the conflicts that India has faced. And moreover, Israel has never, hesitated in terms of cooperation in the technological field. And I dare say the people of Israel, many of whom, the younger people who come to India, spend months in India after their military training and go back. That's a very large pool of people who have
Yes.
experienced India, have enjoyed India, and they want to come back. And I think that
Yes.
relationship, and let us not forget, we have almost 80 to I think 90,000 people of Indian origin, the Jewish people who are there. And the last point is, which I think Prime Minister Netanyahu also mentioned in his speech, that historically, in the worldview of the Jewish people, India is the only country which not only welcomed the Jewish people when they were driven out of their homeland, and
Yes.
also has never been anti-Semitic. And that
Yes.
is one thing I think there is a huge bond between the two peoples.
And
I'm
they've
so
also lived
glad.
in perfect harmony. As one of our Jewish friends, when I was traveling to Israel post October 2023, said India and Israel are like milk and honey, very, very close together. They've always gelled together for generations. But Jason Isaacson, beyond these great optics in Israel's appreciation, what are substantive takeaways from this relationship and this visit? Do they also have the potential, like you mentioned in I2U2 and IMEC, to influence regional ties, bring peace in the region?
Look, there will be in the agreements that were reached, that were signed today by the two leaders. There will be more Indian workers coming to Israel over the next several years. There will be more centers of excellence. These agricultural programs that Israel has set up across India the number will be expanded significantly. The university to university exchanges, the AI cooperation, quantum computing cooperation, medical cooperation, a whole range of fields in which there will be increased collaboration between India and Israel. And I just want to also, I mustn't fail to pick up on what the ambassador said about the people-to-people relationships, of the fact that there are so many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Israelis, especially young Israelis, who are in love with India and who have strengthened this bond. And the fact that India, as the ambassador said, and as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, India is a country unique in the world in the fact that there is no history of anti-Semitism in India. India has welcomed Jews, not persecuted them. And there is still a small Indian Jewish community, and there is an Indian Jewish diaspora in Israel that is very much a part of Israeli society. And so the people-to-people connections are just enormously significant.
Indeed. Ambassador Chakravarty, the Prime Minister's visit, the bromance with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, all that is being talked about, any of this, is it likely to make our Gulf partners uncomfortable? There's a section within the country who are very upset with this open bromance.
Well, I don't think so. I think the Gulf countries now fully understand, and the UAE, for example, is very much a part of the, the corridor that we have been discussing. It's called, I think, I2U2. I think that is what it is called.
Yes.
And I think other countries too. I think most of the Arab countries now have ties with Israel, not all, but several countries after the Abraham Accords have diplomatic relations now. So it's normalization that is going on. Yes, some countries are still, not on the same page. But I think that is also very helpful in the sense that India does provide a bridge between the Arab countries with whom we have good relations and with Israel. So I think this I2U2 clearly exemplifies that we can cooperate in the positive and the productive, ways to sort of better these relationships, and of course try to sort of pull down. I mean, India has always advocated dialogue and diplomacy.
So the last 30 seconds I have on this part of the show, Jason Isaacson, you think I2U2, India, Israel, United States and United Arab Emirates and the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, do you think that gets a fresh impetus after this visit? Do you see this move forward, or will it be held back by the Gaza fire?
No, in fact, it's already starting to move forward. You've heard more affirmations from countries in the region that they want to get back on track after the last 2.5 years. I'm very encouraged by what the Prime Minister of Israel and the Prime Minister of India had to say about all that. It is moving forward. It's really good news.
I will let that be the last word on this part of the show. Jason Isaacson and Ambassador Chakravarty, as always, such a privilege having both of you and hearing your thoughts on the India-Israel relationship and the Prime Minister's visit to Israel.